Attention musicians of all levels. It's not always easy picking out a song by ear. Sometimes you need a little help. Well, I have the app for you. Whether you're a professional musician or a beginner, Ultimate Guitar is an amazing app. For just $2.99, you get the chords and tabs on guitar, bass, or ukulele for over 1 million songs. They're all available at your fingertips. You also get tools like a tuner, metronome, chord library, lessons, videos, and more. You can find out any song you want. It also has like transpose button. It has auto scroll that you can change the speed to so you can play along with the song. A lot of the songs have the lyrics there so you can sing along with them. Ultimate Guitar is an amazing app. Just go to ultimateguitar.com or download the app to your phone today and start playing. Start playing any song you want. Ultimate Guitar, that's the place for you. Let's get down. Hey gang, are you new to this podcast? Have you subscribed on Spotify, Stitcher, or Apple Podcasts and realized that you can only access the 20 most recent shows on these platforms? Do you, my friend, want to binge on How Did I Get Here? Well, check out our archives that are available on the Podbean app. If you follow us on the Podbean app, we have every single show ever released on that platform. You'll also get all of your favorite shows like Fresh Air, WTF with Mark Maron, ID10T, the Michelle Obama podcast. All podcasts available there, and you can also access over 1,000 How Did I Get Here episodes. So, download the Podbean app from your app store and start listening today. Let's get down.
And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
It's time for How Did I Get Here? And now here are your hosts,
When we talked,
All right. Hello, I'm Johnny. I'm your host. Welcome to the show. I hope you guys all had a good weekend, whatever it is you did this weekend. Oh, man. It's getting it's still kind of warm and weird now. It's like going to be 85 today. I'm like, what's going on, man? Where's that cold weather? When's it coming back? When's it going to be cool again? Please, somebody bring it back. I had a pretty eventful weekend. I went to Houston and played Friday and Saturday night with Skyrocket. Took Rosie with me. We stayed at my grandma's house, and my grandma and my aunt watched her while I went to the gigs, and she was very well behaved. They loved having her, and she had a great time. My cousin Jennifer brought her boxer over on Saturday, and they went crazy. And that was really fun. And I work with the Austin Music Foundation, and the Artist Development Program Year 5 has started. So Thursday night, we held an event for Anastasia Hera, who has just launched her brand new rum brand called Hera Tropical Rum. Should be available in stores and at bars sometime in the next few months, hopefully. It was a great time. I got to introduce her and make some remarks about working with her and stuff, and how excited we are to go into the studio. But we started our record this weekend with Frenchie Smith out at the New Bubble, and I came back from Houston on Sunday morning, and went out to the Bubble. Took Rosie out there. My friend Einar, his dog Boba is Rosie's best friend. They're around the same age, around the same size, and they played for probably like 8 hours straight. And anyway, working with this weekend was Quentin Arispe. Quentin and the Past Lives. They recorded out at the Bubble, recorded 2 amazing songs. I mean, it was so, I got to tell you, like, this is so exciting getting to work with young bands and people trying to get their shit together. And you go into these rehearsals, like pre-production rehearsals, and you kind of start organizing these songs, right? Okay, we're going to do these 2 songs. Well, let's go through the song and what's everybody playing. And there was a lot of work everybody put into it. Those guys put a shitload of work into their over the last few weeks, into those 2 songs, and into their sort of like recording playing, kind of getting the mindset from, instead of playing live, like going in the studio and kind of like bringing some of the energy from playing live, but being able to create a record that's exciting to listen to. And man, they fucking nailed it. I was so proud of everyone. It was just so fun, and like sitting back and listening to those tracks on Sunday night in the studio was just ecstasy. It's like why we do this thing. So anyway, I'm really excited. We're doing Nemegata this week, and Pleasure Venom this weekend, and then of course Anastasia Hera, then TV Temple, then Natalie Price. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. What else is going on? Oh, gang, I quit smoking like a little over 2 months ago, right? So I had like my first smoking dream. like one of those intense dreams where you really think it's real and you're really smoking in it, right? So in my dream, something had happened and I'd gotten real mad and I walked outside and somebody was smoking. I was like, give me a cigarette. And then they gave me a cigarette and I started smoking it. And someone was like, Johnny, but you don't smoke. And I started yelling at them. It was really weird. And I was smoking the cigarette like it was the last cigarette left on earth. But I have to say, it didn't make me want to smoke. I woke up and I was like, oh, thank God that wasn't real. I'm pretty into this not smoking thing. It's weird. I'm out of that studio. My two of my best friends, they still smoke. They take the breaks and go out and smoke. I take my Juul out with me and it's fine. I don't feel like, oh, I wish I had one of those instead of this. I'm totally fine with it. So weird. I didn't realize how little I would actually miss cigarettes, I guess, except subconsciously where I violently smoke. Right? All right, gang, I have a great show for you guys today. Rick Pyrick and Tim Regan from 9 Mile Records, a local Austin label, are my guests today. They're not only a label, they also have a publicity company and a touring company, like they do booking and stuff like that. They also do management. You can find them at 9milerecords.com. You can listen to their 9 Mile Records sampler on Spotify. But I got to tell you this. I'll put a link to the Spotify sampler on here because it's fucking great. They have a shitload of really great artists. I will read them off in just a second. But 9 Mile Records is turning 15 this year. They're 15 years old and they're celebrating their 15th anniversary with NMR 15. An epic weekend of shows at Empire Control Room and Garage. 3 nights of celebration. Friday night, December 10th, Shiny Ribs with Sir Woman and Nuevo. Saturday, December 11th, Sweet Spirit with Go Fever and The Deer. Sunday, December 12th, Glorietta with the Greyhounds and Buffalo Hunt. They're also having 15% all of their Bandcamp stuff now. Now, 9 Mile Records has a shitload of great artists, and one of them is Go Fever. And when AC Monaro was here a couple of months ago, and we were doing our podcast, and we were talking about it, I was like, man, I want to start talking to some of these labels. I've talked to Spaceflight guys, I've talked to the Descent guy, and I want to talk to Rick and Tim from 9 Mile Records. So I want to thank AC Monaro for Go Fever for setting this up. Now, 9 Mile Records has put out records by Shiny Ribs, Go Fever, Greyhound, Sir Woman, Nuevo, Sweet Spirit, Star Parks, Night Glitter, Golden Dawn Orchestra, Amy LaVere, Tina Rose, Elijah Ford, Carson McCone, Patrick Sweeney, Glorietta, The Reputation, so many more, man. You go to 9milerecords.com, get tickets for NMR 15, their epic weekends of shows coming up, celebrating their 15th anniversary. Tim and Rick and I have a really great conversation. The one thing that I'm gathering from talking to all these label people, and it's a thing that really interests me, is like, these guys are not like becoming bazillionaires doing this. These guys aren't like, having a record company now is not like the most lucrative thing you can have, a business you can have, right? But it's a business of passion. Just like art, the music being made is made out of passion, not for money. So there's something about these labels that I find extremely attractive. These people that are giving of themselves to bring great art to the world and be like, look what I found, So hats off to Tim and Rick. We have a great conversation. 9 Mile Records is a fantastic label. Find them at 9milerecords.com. Celebrate December 10th, 11th, and 12th with NMR 15 at Control Room and Garage. 3 nights of celebration. And without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Rick Pyrick and Tim Regan from 9 Mile Records. Let's get down. So, you guys are celebrating 15 years of being a label.
We are. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
It's kind of unbelievable.
When you started this, what was the initial intention? Was it to put out one record? Because you and I, we talked at that Go Fever thing outside. It was great. That was a great time, by the way, that day.
Yeah.
It was a good scene.
Yeah, that felt real old school Austin.
It did. Maybe we were talking. I remember talking about that with a couple of people. Like, this really feels like it could be like 1983 or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I started 9 Mile Records just kind of not really on a whim, but when I was in high school, the guys ahead of me, the cool guys that had a band, coined the name 9 Mile Records. And so when I was a touring drummer in Boston many years later, and the bands I was working with couldn't find a record label, I just resurrected the name. And it was really just something to stick on the back of our self-released records,
Right.
to kind of give it a little bit of, I don't know, invisible cred or something.
Right,
you know,
right.
And I was lucky when I was on tour with one of those bands. I met a guy in Ohio named Patrick Sweeney, who had just finished doing some records with Dan Auerbach, and was kind of looking for a way to put them out in the world. And so I told him I would create 9 Mile Records as a legal entity and help him release those. And that was literally it. There was no plan for the future. I never fancied myself running a record label for 15 years.
Are you still, you're still doing stuff with Patrick Sweeney, right?
I am, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
pretty amazing.
So when you started it, what were you able to bring to the table? Like,
mostly just touring connections at that point. I mean, and I think this is actually still kind of true in a lot of ways. You know, running a record label at this level is more like management than it is running a record label. You know, you kind of hold together the day-to-day pieces for the artists that you work with and provide that infrastructure. That infrastructure for me just happened to include distribution, so I called it a record label. But it was really like when he signed to 9 Mile Records, I didn't have any distribution. You know, these were the days when digital distribution was just coming online through iTunes. And so it was really just about consignment deals at record stores. And then I think I finally used the Auerbach leverage to get a deal with Burnside Distribution in Portland. And they helped me get into more stores in other cities. But it was really, I mean, it was real grassroots.
yeah.
You know, it was like sending physical CDs to Pandora so that they could encode them in this new thing called streaming, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
So once you did that, like, you were able to establish, like, do you still who do you still have who do you use your distribution at this point? Is Burnside still an entity?
Eventually I outgrew Burnside and I signed with Red Eye Distribution.
Okay, yeah.
Which is like the distributor from Yep Rock Records.
Right.
And that's who I'm still with. And they've got a worldwide deal with me now. I used to piecemeal it out to other countries. Like if a band went on tour in the Netherlands, I'd find some person over there who could help me sell records. But now Red Eye's grown massively in the last like 5 or 6 years. And they now distribute Sub Pop and Matador and a bunch of really big labels. So they've been able to open offices in London and Berlin and
I think Australia too.
Sydney, yeah, they just opened an office in Sydney.
Oh, wow.
So, which has been great for Go Fever. You know, I mean, that was an amazing coincidence.
Right. When did you come on, Tim? A few years ago?
Like it's actually 2013. I looked that up the other day.
Whoa, I didn't realize that. That's amazing. Yeah. I thought it was like 2016, actually.
I know the years have blown by. 2016 is when we made it all official with the LLC and everything.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet, and what were you doing, Tim, at that point?
Oh, that's a great question. I was on tour a whole lot with a bunch of bands at that point, and I met Rick through Austin's everyday crazy man, Will Rhodes.
Oh yeah.
You know, one of the best
yeah.
people on the planet. Yeah, and I was just on tour a whole lot, and I've been, touring all over, but also I've been booking all the bands that I was in and helping out on a lot of different levels. So I came in kind of on the booking side back in 2013, and we started trying to grow that aspect of 9 Mile.
So you guys,
that because I was kind of missing from Austin, you know?
Yeah, you guys have a pretty healthy roster of people you book as well.
Yeah, we do.
I was,
And that's been more out of necessity than anything. I mean, that was the way to kind of offset the label record cycle model, where you get a bunch of income when the record comes out, and then it's kind of slow for a while.
right.
The booking is just nonstop, so we've been able to like kind of diversify and stay in the game.
How were you able to make it through 2020?
Really.
You want to take that one, Tim?
Yeah, Tim.
2020 was really interesting. I think like a lot of folks in the business and everybody trying to do something, we didn't really believe what was coming was coming. So, we had booked South by Southwest. I think in 2020 we had 2 big showcases, like one with 2 stages and another venue. So we had like pretty much 3 showcases going on and like 4 or 5 day parties. And that all got canceled on, what was it, the 13th of March?
Yep.
And then it was kind of like, well, let's figure out what to do. That we had like Rev Fountain was going to come over from Auckland, and we had more international acts coming over, and it was just like, well, let's figure out what to do. So we rebooked everything at different venues to try to see if people were still going to come, if this was going to happen. So everything got canceled. We rebooked everything, and then all that stuff got canceled again. So that was one hell of a month, really. And then it was just kind of trying to figure out what was going on. A lot of shows were canceled. A lot of, we just there's a couple months of trying to really figure it out. I do remember sitting on a beach sometime in July down in Galveston or something like that, and just being like, what is going on and how are we going to get through this?
Yeah.
And what's next? But, honestly, through that, with some of our artists like Greyhounds, we were able to get some cool like Zoom privates for some folks, some companies that wanted to do something and trying to get revenue in. We had Carson McCone was doing some private concerts via Zoom and via some other stuff. So it was really, at that point, was just trying to figure out how do we move forward and what can we do now, and what technology is out there to let us continue to have people work and make a little bit of money. But it was definitely very, very tough and very interesting. And, it was a big hustle. And
Yeah.
It was,
That's exactly what I was going to say.
running.
Yeah, it was real month to month. I remember Patrick Sweeney's. He has a pretty established fan base, and so his online concerts were doing really well for the first 4 or 5 months, and then that kind of tapered off. And then we were lucky enough to have a Greyhounds record ready to go and a Night Glitter record ready to go, and so we just decided to release them into the void. And there was so much goodwill out there from a fan perspective that I think both of those kind of oversold online, and that got the label through the summer. But we were doing publicity for non 9 Mile clients for a while. I mean,
Right.
it's been just all over the place.
And okay, so you have a label, you have a booking agency, and also a publicity company. So people can hire you guys.
Yeah, we're winding down the publicity stuff, I think, to some degree. I think that's fair to say, Tim.
Yeah, we've gotten quite busy.
Yeah. Now that things are open back up, it's we're not an established publicity firm. We have some contacts, but
Right.
we're not going to necessarily take a lot of records to that next big level. So that was kind of just a way to help out some friends who had that need in the moment. But now that things are open back up, we're insanely busy. So I don't see us holding on to that too much longer.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
You guys have such a when you go and listen to that 9 Mile Record sampler playlist on Spotify, it's great. Like whose taste dictates the direction of the label, and how do you choose bands?
Tim and I have very, very similar taste.
Okay.
So it's usually a very quick conversation. It's like, check this out. Do you like it? Yeah, I like it. I want to bring this band on, and here's why, 3 or 4 bullet points. And then if it makes sense kind of across the board, then we do it, And we take on, I have to say we take on a lot of projects too at very different scales. You know, the needs of the artists we work with range dramatically. So some deal might be a much bigger investment than another deal, I guess is the simple way to put it.
Right. But when you, like, say for instance, which one of you guys was the ones that found Nuevo?
Oh, I did. And that was really through my relationship with Greyhounds.
Okay.
They're the rhythm section in that band.
Oh, okay.
And they're old friends with Dante Schwebel, who was in Hacienda. And he's Dan Auerbach's guitar player, actually. He lived in Nashville. He just recently moved back to San Antonio. And they just dropped that record in my lap. They had recorded it kind of on the down low up in Nashville. And we're like, oh, you really got to check this out. And they already had the branding. They already had a kind of plan moving forward. And they really just needed distribution and someone else to kind of keep them on track. So that's a perfect example where that was a really small investment on my part. It was really just distribution and a little radio promotion is what I offered them. And they were ready to go. You know, They had the connections in the industry and just wanted someone to hold down the fort.
Yeah. What about a band like Star Parks? They're fantastic. And that record, I can't remember the name of it. It's kind of long.
The New Sounds of Lost Capitalism.
Thank you. Great album.
Is that it?
Yes.
Oh, it's fantastic. And that is the, so that's another thing that we do also. So that's on the management side. So we have a lot of acts that we manage, and that's kind of turned into a lot of what our day-to-day is, really. And that album came out on February 14th of 2020.
Yeah.
They were set a lot of that album, maybe 6 or 7 songs. The instrumental tracks of those were taken and used and put together on this major feature film by Chris Ray, starring Jillian Jacobs and Jermaine Clement, called "I Used to Go Here."
Right.
That was going to premiere at South by Southwest. They were set up to do, a big movie party with that for the South by Southwest movies, and then play a lot of shows at South by Southwest. And they were also KUTX Artist of the Month in March of 2020. So that album is absolutely, absolutely incredible, and just like had the worst timing in the world. But everybody definitely needs to check out Star Parks. That album is fantastic. That movie is pretty good. It's just kind of wonderful, and they kind of they've had a slow progression with that, and people are definitely checking it out, and they've been able to make some big waves. But the timing of that was absolutely awful with the pandemic. That was like a very good example of that. Just
interestingly, also that actually came out on another Austin label called Modern Outsider. But they only had the North American rights to it. And so, Tim, as management, figured out a strategy for them to release it in Europe. And that's how it came out on 9 Mile initially. Okay. It was as a European release. So there's so little industry in Austin that we've I don't know if it's by necessity necessarily, but definitely by design, we've tried to move in as many different directions as we can, right, to work with the artists that we want to work with.
Well, what I think is interesting is there is very little industry in Austin, and I know I don't know how long you guys have been here, but like in the 90s, some guys tried to come down here and do stuff. Like I think BMG and Arista had Arista Austin. There's like, hey, we're gonna do this thing down here, and then it's like, nope, it's not gonna work. But because of that lack of industry, and I've been talking to some of your colleagues, because I imagine everyone's kind of in the same boat here. There's not like, no one's like ripping each other's throats out. Because I saw you guys, actually you book a couple of space flight records artists as well. Yeah. So,
and I've been meeting with them on the regular actually to talk about even more collaboration.
So I feel like what's happened here is that there have been people that are so passionate about music, and even if it started a while ago, like yours started 15 years ago, like you're like, there's a way I can do something about this because you love the music, right?
Yeah.
or you wouldn't do it because it's
Oh no, yeah, no way. I had that's the thing. When I started the label, I had an entirely different career. I just wanted a way to stay in the music industry and not go on tour. I mean, that was literally the reason.
right. But it's because of your love of music that you can get through the days and the passion to try and help these artists realize their goals and their dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the vacuum plays both ways. Like I feel like I've been able to work with artists like Shiny Ribs or Sweet Spirit. If we were all based in Nashville or New York, I may have never even gotten a crack at those bands because, you know, it's obvious how amazing they are. They probably would have been scooped up by a bigger entity. Yeah. So.
I saw you touch on a really cool point about Austin real quick.
Sure.
That like actually, you know, that I feel like can be very collaborative. Like we go and do happy hours with a lot of the other labels and other agents and just kind of keep that thing going. So it's a good feeling to like be a part of a little bit more of a community where, you know, there's so many great artists and there's not a whole lot of industry, but the folks that are here are like really trying to help. And, you know, that kind of that thing with Modern Outsider or Space Flight. So where it's just like, man, this band is so incredible. How can we help out? We don't have the bandwidth to do everything, but you know, could you do some of this stuff or could we help you here or do some of that thing? And I think that's something that's special about Austin that doesn't exist in Nashville, LA, New York.
Right. Know? Yeah, that's true. So you're celebrating 15 years. You're doing an epic weekend of shows at the Empire Control Room and Garage. 3 nights of music, December 10th, 11th, and 12th, with Shiny Ribs, Sir Woman, Nuevo, Sweet Spirit, Go Fever, The Deer, Glorietta, Greyhounds, Buffalo Hunt, and Night Glitter is going to be DJing.
Yeah.
These are huge.
Pretty good weekend.
Yeah, that's a great weekend. How are you guys? How are you going to make 3 nights? That's a lot of nights. It's like a festival.
It's a lot of nights.
Yeah.
I envisioned it long before I thought about the logistics of it. It's something I wanted to do forever. I mean, I've wanted to get a lot of these bands together. What's amazing to me is that once I finally found the venue and started curating the shows, some of these people have never even met before, let alone shared a stage.
Right.
Like when I pitched the Shiny Ribs Sir Woman bill, Kelsey Wilson was like, "Oh, I don't know Kevin."
Right.
And that just blew my mind. I mean, they live a mile away from each other.
Yeah.
It turns out, and they, you know. So I don't care if Tim and I are the only people there. I'll be happy. Like I'm just so stoked to see all these bands together. So
yeah.
I'll make it work logistically. I'll be there all day if I have to.
Are you?
And you know, we weren't able to do South by last year, so
yeah,
let's just go ahead and throw our own.
No, and did you guys?
Right.
You guys had a showcase at Americana Fest.
We did this year, yeah.
How was that?
It was
Wonderful.
great. It was at a new place that wasn't quite open yet called Eastside Bowls Bowling Alley / venue. It's a legendary venue in East Austin called the Family Wash that moved into this bowling alley, basically. And Tim knows one of the owners, and so they just asked us if we wanted a day to do kind of a soft opening for them. And what was interesting is that because there was such a decreased presence at Americana Fest this year, we were able to collaborate with a lot of labels up there the way we would with labels here. So we had artists from Rounder Records and from Yep Rock.
I saw that.
It was really cool.
Yeah. Is there like a coalition of independent labels like there is of independent record stores?
Yeah, there's a couple of different organizations. The one that we belong to is called A2IM, and that is I forget exactly what that stands for, but it's basically all the mid-sized to small record labels around the country, and they provide lobbying services. Like they have people in Washington that can help negotiate and navigate the passing of laws that benefit indie musicians and indie labels, and they provide all kinds of back-end resources for us as far as negotiating terms on contracts and things like that. So, and they do a really
another one that.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say another one that came up over the pandemic and was born out of the pandemic is NITO, National Independent Talent Organization, that Frank Riley and some folks started.
Oh, yeah.
That has been a great resource, and they did a lot of lobbying for the Shuttered Venues grant, and that's it's continuing and turning into like a very, very cool thing to be a part of with a lot of the managers and talent representatives and booking agents.
That's awesome. I bet also it's been a great thing to be able to get people back out on the road and playing. I saw your rosters, like people are starting to get out there and.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's so good to be busy.
Yeah, totally. And it's nice to be able to go to shows. Talk to me a little bit about this band Glorietta.
Yeah, sure. So I got to know Matt Vasquez from Delta Spirit when he moved to town a few years ago. He did one of our Free Week shows. We did a big Free Week show at Mohawk, and he played that. And he was preparing a solo record that he thought he wanted it to come out on 9 Mile, and that didn't happen. He ended up going with a Canadian label called Dine Alone. But we remain friends, and we still hang out when we can. And he cooked up this songwriters retreat in New Mexico and just invited, I think he invited originally like a dozen people. But the people who could make it were David Ramirez, Kelsey Wilson from Wild Child and Sir Woman, Steve Berlin from Los Lobos, Adrian Casada from Black Pumas, Noah Gunderson, who's a singer-songwriter out of Seattle, and then another Austin local guy called Jason Blum. Yeah. And then they invited Nathaniel Rateliff down, actually, to sing a couple songs. And they just rented a house in New Mexico for 12 days and wrote and recorded. Everyone brought a couple songs to the table, and they wrote and recorded 15 songs in 12 days. And it's awesome. It's like a weird traveling Wilburys kind of collaborative thing. And they used Nathaniel Rateliff's backing band. And he felt bad about not going with 9 Mile for his solo record. So he just dropped this thing in my lap, and he was like, I don't think this is ever going to happen again. I don't think any other labels are going to want to touch it. Do you want to put it out? And the minute I heard it, I was like, absolutely. It's phenomenal. Do you guys have they did a full, they were in it to win it. Like they did the full tour. They played Hardly Strictly Bluegrass. They played Newport Folk Festival and Pickathon. And that was supposed to be it. But I've convinced them to reunite as many of them as can make it reunite for this show for the 15th anniversary.
Do you have like a set schedule of records you put out a year, or is it just kind of like, do you have like, how much you can handle putting out?
Yeah, we learned that the hard way. There were a couple of years we put out just way too many records, especially when Tim first came on and he had this whole roster of connections that complemented mine. I think one year we put out 9 or 10 records, and that was way too much.
Chaos.
Yeah, it was chaos. Exactly.
So how many
but it was just too much.
So how many records then do you put out a year? You give it like do you have one and you focus on it, and then you release another one, and then you kind of shift your main focus to that one?
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. We're a 2-person operation. We have a couple of part-time people, one that does social media and one that does admin. And then usually in normal years, I've had a couple of interns, but since the pandemic, it's just been difficult to coordinate that. So my favorite number is 4 to 5 records a year. So we can put one out each quarter, really dive in as deep as we can and know that we're not missing anything. Right. Some years are lighter than that just because something falls through. Like this year, we really only put out one record. We put out the Go Fever record, and then we released a bunch of singles. And that was due to the fact that vinyl manufacturing is just in chaos right now. Yeah. And so we had to push 2 releases to next year.
Jesus. So, which ones are those?
9 months from approved test pressing.
Yeah.
9 months from approved. It's so nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna put out the Buffalo Hunt record, which is Stephanie Hunt. She's local now, and the Next Sir Woman record are the two that we push to next year.
Do you guys, obviously you have bands that aren't from here as well that you sign? Does that present any kind of challenge, like the distance? I guess now it doesn't.
I would say that I've gotten really good. The challenges usually arise from bands that can't do a lot of the day-to-day stuff on their own, and stuff starts to fall through the cracks. So I've gotten a lot better at doing my due diligence before I start working with bands to make sure that they have kind of some sort of infrastructure, or they're kind of motivated to do a lot of the grunt work themselves. Because with such a small operation, you know, they're gonna have to promote on some level themselves.
Right.
So now it's really I think that's the reason we're so Austin centric these days, is because when we can meet with an artist face to face once a month or once every couple of weeks, we can make sure that stuff happens.
Right.
You know, so the people we sign from out of town, like David Wax Museum in Charlottesville, they've been doing this a long time, and they're probably more organized than we are, actually, frankly. So working with them is a dream, because we're really much more of a traditional record label where it's just distribution, just promotion.
Right.
And they can handle all the kind of management and booking type stuff.
Right. So starting a label like 15 years ago, in the time that we've seen, you know, labels take a hit in the way that they have, how do you do it?
Well, it's like we said before, we've tried to diversify to offset being so dependent on that risk, you know. So the booking agency, the management side of things, I really see next year for myself personally being much more management heavy than label heavy.
Right. Me too.
There's a lot of overlap there, but.
What were you going to say, Tim?
I was just saying, absolutely. Like, you know, with, say, Carson McComb, like I just got announced that she signed to Merge Records for her new album coming out next year, and is still working with Loose Music in the UK and Europe. And but management is kind of the thing. And also with management, if you know, it comes with a pretty good thing to where it's just like, well, you need distribution, we have it. You know, we're able to do that as management.
Right.
Which is a great thing to have in your pocket, and a great way to like really grow the artist's career for sure.
That management thing, though, it always seems so. Like friends of mine that have managed, people that have managed me, I've always felt bad for them, because you're the toilet scrubber in the thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's a shitty job, man. Or it can be.
Full on day to day for sure.
Yeah. Right before the pandemic, I was fired as the manager of one of my favorite artists, who shall remain nameless on this. And then right after the pandemic, I was rehired by them. But I remember when I got fired, my heart was just broken, because I felt like I had done so much grunt work.
Yeah.
You know, unseen grunt work. And I talked to a really good friend of mine that we hire to do radio publicity a lot, who had also done a lot of management. And he just kind of shrugged it off. He said, the only true thing I can tell you about managing musicians is that you will get fired one day.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys remember there was a famous football coach in the 70s called Bum Phillips? He was the Oilers football coach.
Yeah.
And he got fired, and he went on the Tonight Show. And for some reason, I had this recorded when I was a kid, and I loved his interview. But he said this thing. He said, there's two kinds of coaches, them that's fired and them that's going to get fired. And I've always felt that equated that same thing with managers like this, you know.
100%.
Let's try and stay friends when this whole thing's over, because I like you, man. You know?
Yeah, well,
Exactly.
I thought a lot about that, you know, and that was a really good lesson for me too, because my initial instincts were to get pretty ornery with this artist.
Sure.
And I didn't. I resisted that urge. And after, a year and a half, they thought it over and thought I'd be an asset again. So, I got lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. That story has a happy ending.
Right.
So, this year being your 15th anniversary, you're doing 15% off all of your Bandcamp stuff?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, got to do something.
Yeah.
To celebrate.
Yeah,
Give
definitely.
back to those that give to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone, head to our Bandcamp page and buy as much as you can.
Yeah. And people can find you guys at
It's all good.
Yeah. It is all good. Like I really enjoyed listening to your sampler on Spotify. Like I'll put that in the text of this podcast because to me that's the kind of thing is like some labels have a sound, but some labels have like a good taste. You know what I mean? Like that's what I felt like. I was hearing different bands and they were all really great. I got turned on to the Reputations, who are really amazing on there.
Yeah, that's what a tragic story that is.
What is that?
Were you familiar with them?
No.
When they were around? It was a very short-lived project. It grew out of the ashes of the band Bobby Jealousy. I don't know if you remember them.
I remember the name.
They're a local rock band. They were really big on the Hotel Vegas scene.
Okay.
And when Sabrina Ellis left to form Sweet Spirit, the ashes of their former band Bobby Jealousy grew into the Reputations.
Okay.
More or less. And they recorded that great record that you have heard samples of, and we put it out, and they went on tour, and they really started turning heads. And then one of their main songwriters, who had kind of stopped playing live with them, was diagnosed with cancer and died as the record was coming out. And the band just, there were a lot of other factors, but I think the weight of that was just too much.
Yeah, that's hard to get over.
Yeah. So that was a pretty intense experience all the way around. But they were phenomenal band.
Yeah.
Of course, are still playing in other projects. So,
how much creative sort of input do you guys have? I know when I was talking to AC on the podcast, she had talked about that she wanted to not put as many songs, and you were like, no. You got to put this many songs if we're going to put it out on vinyl, or it's not worth it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if I would call that creative input. That's more business input.
That sounds like a label. Like, yeah.
Like, we need to sell this for $20, so it needs to be substantial enough to. I mean, that's really,
Yeah. But
I think we're a great sounding board. I don't know if we come in and say like chord changes here or this or that, but we are a great sounding board, and also I think we're really good connectors. Like being able to see somebody and say, you want to make this record, these songs are so wonderful. Like, have you thought about working with this engineer or producer? Have you thought about doing this? Like, you want to go and get, a big aspect of touring is selling merch and like really getting, for lack of a better word, the right brand out there. And it's like working with different artists to create those designs and stuff like that. So we're definitely very hands-on, but it's more as a sounding board and connectors, I think, other than coming in and saying, you got to do this. It's really more, I think of us as really good collaborators for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I also have a lot of uncredited tambourine parts on records.
You got to get after that credit, man.
I also will say it's dependent on the artist. There's an artist that we work with, Spiral Stairs, Scott Canberg from Pavement, and it started as he needed a home for the record, Doris and the Daggers, and it's an absolutely wonderful record. We ended up putting that out, and through that they came, and that band was made up of folks he was living in Mexico City or Mexico at the time, like a drummer from North Carolina, a bass player from California, and a guitar player from LA. And they came to Austin and did South by Southwest. And then from then, I ended up being the manager, we were the label, the booking agent, and then somehow on the next record, I played all the keyboards and lead guitar and toured around the world with them for a couple of years.
Wow.
So it really depends.
Full service.
And that was very fun. That was very fun. It was also a lot. It was
Yeah.
very fun.
I don't know if you ran into this, Tim, at all when you did that, though, but playing in the band that you're also the record label / manager for can be really weird. Like, I did that a couple of times myself, and it just gets a little dicey at times. Like, who's calling the shots? What, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that can be. I've been on the other side of that, where everybody in charge, like our management, was a drummer. The guy that signed us to the label was a drummer that was owned by a drummer. And all three of those fucking guys at some point were like, "Let me play drums." You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've been in that seat.
Well, a band. Let's go back to this Go Fever record, just because I'm familiar with it. It's out now. Did you guys connect them with who produced that record?
They did that at Radio Milk with James Petrali,
Right,
actually,
right.
who I just had coffee with this morning. We were just talking about Go Fever. It's kind of cool. I did not make that connection, but once that connection was made, they started to get cold feet because of the pandemic. They weren't sure whether to call him, or they didn't know him that well. So again, that was an instance where I was just another voice in the room and was, told them I would send some emails and kind of massage that relationship a little bit. And it ended up happening, and the results were phenomenal. So,
Now, had you already signed them to the label?
yeah, we had been friends for a long time, and had kind of talked loosely about their next record coming out on 9 Mile.
So can you tell me what the process? Did they play you the demos and you were like, okay?
They actually, they knew they wanted to do it with him. So I think regardless, like if I hadn't liked the record and didn't want to put it out on 9 Mile, they would have gone through that process anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because they paid for it themselves.
Right.
And negotiated all of that. But I was pretty sure I was going to like the record. They had played a couple of the songs. I can't remember if they were playing them live beforehand or if they had played me demos. So I kind of knew where they were going, and they had brought a couple new members on that I really appreciated musically.
Yeah.
So I was I kind of knew I was going to like it. They were setting me up to like it.
Yeah. Well, they're good. That record's just great, and it has so much vibe, and James did a great job. They did a great job.
Yeah. And Jim Valentine, the engineer there,
course.
I think knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
He was incredible.
I worked. I told AC this. I worked with him like in 1998 or 1999 on a record. He was assistant engineer, but he was one of the coolest dudes. Here's some weird questions, but I think that these are good for people listening that are fans and people that are artists as well. When you guys sign an artist, what moves you to sign them?
Tim?
I mean, I think it's kind of like when you first fall in love with somebody at first sight. I mean, it's honestly pretty overwhelming, where you just go, holy shit, wow. And like, I'm one of those people that I listen to a whole lot of music, but if I find something I like obsess over it, listen to a record 300 times kind of thing. And like, when that happens to me with any music, but definitely something that is just like really good and something that I've stumbled upon, I just get obsessed with it and just get turned on. But I really feel like it's love at first sight. Like, it's just blown away and done something. And, there has to be, something happening. There has to be some kind of infrastructure there. It has to be connecting with people other than Rick or I, like it has to be a little bit broader than just there. But at the end of the day, it really is just like getting mowed over by something you love. And, that's at least how it works for me. And I'm a pretty excitable dude, and it's pretty obvious when it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, it's always about the music, and anytime I've ever made decisions based on other optics, like someone has someone famous on their record, or,
Right.
but I'm not really into the music, it always falls flat on its face every single time. So
it's all about the song.
What's that?
It's all about the song. 100%. End of days. It's all about the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a real performance nut too. So strangely, even though the label's dealing mostly in recorded music, if a band really floors me from the stage, I'll find a way to work with them in some capacity, whether it's putting out their record or booking their shows.
Right.
And that was the way Sweet Spirit came to me. Like, people just kept bugging me, like, you got to see this band. And I saw them inside at Stubbs opening for another band that I don't even remember who it was. And I was so blown away. I didn't care what the record sounded like. I was just like, bring it on. Like, let's find a way to do this. So
there are some artists that have this thing where you can see like 30 seconds of it and you're like, okay. And Sabrina definitely is one of those people.
I agree.
Yeah. So here's the second part of that question, which say you like the music of a band and you like their performance. What are the red flags that would stop you from signing a band? Lack of infrastructure, chaos, drug addiction?
Yeah, definitely any of those.
Those are good ones. Those are red flags. Those are good red flags.
Yeah. I mean, those are the obvious ones. For me, I've been much more attuned to the inner workings of the band, like making sure everything's copacetic, and getting kind of a read on that, like insisting on meeting with a full band if it's a band project.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than like putting the record out and the drummer quits a week before the tour.
Right,
and it kind of blows things up, you know? Like, we just, at this level, we can't afford that.
No.
So that to me is something I really kick the tires around. And kind of trying to gauge where people are at interpersonally in their lives, just to make sure that we're going to get at least a solid 18 months or 2 years to really push something.
Right. Do you guys have to spend a lot of your days, like at least on the management level, like putting out fires within bands? Did they come to you with that shit?
No, that never happened.
Yeah, I can't. They're all super well adjusted.
I can't comment. You can't comment.
I mean, yeah, Tim and I spend a lot of time day to day talking about that shit. You know, like that's the work that we do together, because we act a lot in silos, the two of us.
Right.
Like, there's a couple of artists that we collaborate with on, but we're really pretty independent. And so a lot of it is calling each other and being like, what do you think of this crazy thing that just happened? You know?
Right.
And troubleshooting around that. So that's been invaluable as a resource. But yeah, there's always, there's always drama in bands. It's like, it's what makes for good music, frankly.
Yeah, that's sort of the thing that you always think of like the Guns N' Roses model. Like, yeah, you'd like to be involved in a record that changes everything, like Appetite for Destruction. But at what point do you strangle Axl or not strangle Axl? You know what I mean?
Right. Sometime after a couple of tour stretches, I think.
Yeah.
Make the money first if you can.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what else I'm missing, but it was great meeting you, Rick, at that party and talking to you. I love what you guys are doing. I really believe in it, and I can't wait to see what else you do. And the 9 Mile Records 15th anniversary epic weekend of shows is at Empire Control Room and Garage. 3 nights of celebration: December 10th, December 11th, and December 12th. Shiny Ribs, Sir Woman, Nuevo, Sweet Spirit, Go Fever, The Deer, Glorietta, Greyhounds, Buffalo Hunt, DJ sets by Night Glitter. I love that band.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk about vibe.
Yeah. Total. Is there any sort of like 3-day pass people can get?
There isn't. we had to negotiate a lot of separate deals for everyone, and so every night is a little different. And the venue kind of talked me out of going that route because financially it just gets kind of hard to manage on the back end.
I can see that.
I'm thinking there will be some premiums. I'm thinking about some things we can give away to people when they show up, some merch items and things like that. So, and I'm trying to make those built into each night so people feel like it's a little bit more than just your straight up concert.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Billy Buck made great posters. I love her and I love her work.
She's amazing.
So wonderful.
Yeah.
Also, why am I drawing a blank on her band?
Oh, Sailor Poon.
Sailor Poon. What a fucking awesome band. You know, when I first heard of them, I'm friends with their dad, Mike, because I'm like 53 and I've been around for a long time. So he's like, oh, you got to hear, Billy's got a band. And I'm like, really? What's that? Sailor Poon, man. He was so proud of the name of the band.
Yeah. That was real old school Austin, too. They released it in the parking lot of kind of Tropical. That was a pretty cool move.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah.
I love Bill.
Well, congratulations on 15 years of great work, and here's to 15 more.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, man. And stay in touch. I'll definitely want to come out to one of those nights. I'll be able to do one of them, I'm sure.
Awesome. Yeah, just let us know.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing the show, and I'll let you guys know when it's up, but it's great talking to you. Great. Tim, have we met before?
I think it was a handful of years ago, but it was briefly. I think I was running around with Carson or Kevin Galloway or something like that.
Okay.
But we've definitely shaken hands, but we need to sit down and have a cold beer or something.
Yeah, that would be great.
Sure.
Or, man, we should get AC to make those pina coladas again.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Deal.
Make that happen.
Those are awesome. All right, dudes. Well, thank you so much for doing the show. Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's Rick Pyrick and Tim Regan from 9 Mile Records. Find them at 9milerecords.com. Go to NMR 15, their epic weekend of shows celebrating their 15th anniversary at Empire Control Room and Garage. 3 nights of celebration. Friday, December 10th with Shiny Ribs, Sir Woman, and Nuevo. December 11th, Sweet Spirit, Go Fever, and The Deer. And December 12th, Glorietta, Greyhounds, and Buffalo Hunt. All right, great talking to those guys. Go to 9milerecords.com, get involved, buy some merch. They're also doing the 15% off their Bandcamp stuff. So check out their Bandcamp page. Get involved there. Do what you can. And hey, gang, speaking of getting involved, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast wherever it is that you find podcasts, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Overcast, Stitcher. New shows all the time. Usually Tuesdays and Fridays. If not, there's 3 shows a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But if you subscribe, you'll know when you're getting one. And also share it if you like it. If you're a fan of 9 Mile Records, if you're an artist on 9 Mile Records, share this combo. Let people know what a cool label this is. All right? Thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. And let's get down.